welcome to my failure swing video. I don't think this one will be too long as I explained the failure swing in the previous episode anyway. However, I will go more into detail in this episode of it. So what is a failure swing? A failure swing is basically, imagine a 1 hour candle, 4 hour, it's basically every time frame you can use, but mainly I use 4 hour and the 1 hour. If you can see, let's say today's example, I'm just cherry picking pretty much, but today's example, I'll make this red so you understand where it is, but that's where I usually have it as anyway. So what can you see here? The 3:45 candle, I basically use the 15-minute every time pretty much, unless I'm not too sure, but if you see, the 3:45 candle leaves a failure swing. What does that mean to me? What does that mean to me? Basically, this candle is already swept. This is yesterday's example, basically. So, on the 1 hour, the previous candle, 3:45, yeah. The previous candle already is taken. So we can just keep going higher time frame and higher time frame and check what has it taken. If it's nothing on the higher time frame, we can just use the lower, but I prefer if it's like a 4 hour failure swing, then it's easy. But basically, using this, we can understand that the previous hour doesn't have to sweep this low. And if our bias is already bullish, that's a good point of reversal. So if you see this, do we have any range? Let's check. With this, we created a 3 hour range here. Let me just go back so it's easier to understand. Using the next candle, okay. So the previous candle closes here. This is the 3:45 candle, by the way. So 4 a.m. opens the next 3 hour candle. We can check the 6 hour. Does the new 6 hour open? No, the next 6 hour opens at 7. 4 hour, no, it's already open. So understanding this, even this candle hasn't even closed. Once this candle closes, you basically know failure swing. We created the low of the candle at the end of the previous hourly candle. So what can you see? This is what I like to do for just small intraday trades mostly, and usually with failure swings, the moves are like very quick. It doesn't usually consolidate but this is an easy, simple trade you could have got yesterday, and it happens nearly every day. Nearly, because not every single day. But what I like to do, once the failure swing happens, and sometimes I like to wait for confirmation, but sometimes I'll just enter on the thing. So what I usually like to do is as soon as the next candle closes, I would just enter. Let's say we're targeting 2 hour. I would like to enter on the power 3 predominantly, but sometimes, as you can see, just goes up. Imagine this candle just shoots up. You'll miss the move. So it's basically a risk. You can either enter on the next open. Let's say the next opening is here. Target around 2 hour, because with a failure swing especially, you don't expect this high to be taken. Target 2 hour. Bang. Easy 2 hour like that, but probably on Euro will be more. But this is just DXY that I'm showing. But what time was it? 3:45. Yeah. So once DXY takes the range, that's when you should exit. I'll show you the example today as well. I did, but this is the 8 a.m. candle. This one was quite slow, but usually it's a lot faster. So 3:45, you enter on the next one here. You expect this one to stay intact. So let's say your stop loss is just above it. You exit at 8 a.m. So around here. Yeah, it will be around 2 hour. And with the 8 a.m., well, imagine if this happened at 7:55 or something. You can wait for the new 1 hour, which would be like here, but So that this is literally a free 2R you could have gotten yesterday, and then what happened just reversed. This was pretty much my entry yesterday as well, but as you know, I was holding to the 8-hour on DXY, so. But let's check what happened today, because that's what I was meant to talk about, but I saw yesterday's instead. And this is literally a simple entry method. As long as you have the right bias, you don't really need a perfect entry. You just have to know where the direction's going. That's the most important part, I would say, to make sure you're doing right in trading, because everything else is easy. Getting the bias sometimes can be easy, but you have to know where the lowest point will be, where is the best time to enter, and where is the best time to exit. Pretty much that's the most important parts of trading. Easier to said than done, but it all comes with time. And it won't always be perfect. You can strive for perfection, but it's not always guaranteed to be perfect. But let's just say 445. As I said, we're in the last quarter. As I said before, 445. What does happen? Creates the highest point of the candle at 445. As you can see here, 230, we don't entertain that. 245, we don't entertain that. 315, no. Until this part. Because as you can see, it has to make sense. It can't just be in a random point. It actually has to make sense. Like the other one, we swept the previous daily low. That is a reasonable area to look for longs. But here, what do you see? It was the 2-hour range, I think. Was it? Yeah. 3 hour or 2 hour? Yeah, it was the 3 hour, I mean. Pretty sure it was 2 hour, 3 hour. But basically what happened here, as I explained, but I like explaining things multiple times, especially so you really understand it. So you see with the 445, we have the new 5 a.m. candle on the euro, which basically means if we go on the euro, 445 makes the failure swing. Where is it created? Sweeping this low. And it all makes sense because last quarter, new 3 hour range created as well. 2 hour. It's hard to see with going back, but 2 hour, 3 hour, same thing pretty much. It doesn't look that clean on the 15-minute, but once you see the timing, it all makes sense. So for today, the best trade in my opinion, there was literally nothing else to trade today other than this. Literally, with the next candle, as soon as it opens here, you can just enter. Target 2 3R. If you want to be extra safe, 2R. But it all adds up with time. The 15 pip stop loss, literally 30 pip. And look, easy as that. Because if you have your stop loss sometimes too tight, what can happen is you would just get stopped here and then it would just go without you. That's why I sometimes like just 2R is basic, you know, and it all adds up with time. 3R is like, I've made this sure now because sometimes I would be up 4-5R and then it just reverses, like, and it just, you know, puts you in a bad mood sometimes. So what I like doing is just sticking to basic 2-3R. It will get you a long way in trading, trust me. Because sticking to these higher R's, like, sometimes just makes your brain so confused and you just don't know what you're doing at that point. But let me show you some other examples. If I can go Monday, I'm not sure if we had one Monday. Let me just double check. Monday. Oh no, this is still PM session. If I go 2 a.m. Just go candle by candle. That's why sometimes I like having the 15-minute chart open on the left and higher time frame on the right. But you can just use this. It doesn't really change much. Here, nothing. Oh yeah, it was this one. I explained this in the other video anyway. This one of the harder ones is you would predominantly want this to happen at 12:45, but 1:45 it also happens. As you can see, we don't look to trade here anyway, so I don't want to explain it, but this sometimes with failure swings, you see how it didn't take this high. On another broker, it probably took it. Sometimes I can check. No, no, no. Maybe on some other broker, but basically, sometimes with failure swings, they'll be created without sweeping the main high. So this one you can count as it swept it. So if you're entering here, especially as we had this daily range, I think it was to this one or something. But you can just enter of that. Especially if you see this next candle like this, just next power free straight entry as soon as it opens. But if you see this happen at 2 a.m., 1 a.m., you don't trade those times. 3 a.m. is fine. Even if you miss the move, it's okay. And I remember I said that we had a failure swing here to finish the range, but I can't remember where it was. Oh yeah. Then there was the one I showed before, I think. Was it? 6:45. And then just look. Random, right? You see how these high probability swings aren't that hard to identify. They're always made around a certain time. Especially if you see one made at this time, it's literally just free money at that point. Even if you made a whole model just based on failure swings, you're eating at least twice a week, 2-3 times a week. You will be making good money. If on a good week, every single day, you can catch the swing high, the swing low. As long as you know the bias, you're chilling. But literally, even if you enter on the next open, let's say we go in Europe, what was our target here? Let's check. I think this was the 12-hour range. Yeah, and then just exit on the next one. But let's make it a bit more basic, maybe. I want to see if, because I think the 12 was clean. Yeah, because this was the failure swing. Let's just make it simple for ourselves as a quick trade. What you can do is literally aim for the 12-hour once it's complete, but like here, but you get the point. I just want to make it simple for you guys. So let's say you aim for this high. This could be a 3-hour range, 2-hour range, whatever. Maybe 1 hour. I think it was a... Hold on. It was a 6-hour sweep after. That's what it was. Yeah, 6-hour sweep. Because, okay, how I like to explain stuff. With ranges sometimes, what you would see is, you'll see the range on the 2-hour, the 3-hour, and it will have something inside of it. But you see, let's say, this was a clear 12-hour range. Like clear. You see the gap here, and then you see the 12-hour range here. But what can you do? You see 12-hour, if you halve that, once this candle has created a new high, that is a great point for exit. Every exit is an entry, every entry is an exit. And as you can see, like this, I'm not just cherry picking this, you can backtest this for yourself. But let me draw this out for you properly. Because let's say your bias was bullish, like how mine was. Even though I was wrong on the long term, I know on the short term I could have made good money. And you don't always have to be greedy. Literally, I'll show you. If you're looking for euro, you want to exit on the 6-hour high. It's the same as the 4-hour high. You're just exiting on different time frames. Same thing, just different time frames. All work together. So literally, you enter on the failure swing, and exit once DXY has taken the new 6-hour range, as I showed here, because it's a 12-hour range, 6-hour range is the same, but you just want to simplify it, you know. You don't always want to be targeting the big RRs. So you see, this was the failure swing here, meaning this has swept here. And you see how after every failure swing, we don't come back to retest it. We might have a small retracement higher, but we don't come back to retest it. So what you can see here, this is 30 something pips if you have a stop loss just above 2R. Literally simple. Every failure swing you can just aim for 2R, and it's just clean. 2R I think is the safest. 1.5R you can do as well. Like, you still get paid 100k account, 1.5k just for that, and it's, you see how simple it is every single time. This is something that came from my own learning though. Well, like, I learned it from someone, but all these time things just come with time. Like, you actually have to be actively on the market. No one could really teach you, and you just find these things out yourself. Like, that's the magic of it, really. If I go into the previous week, maybe I can find something as well. Another one was here, but that was out of the time. Yeah, literally every single day you can find it. Okay, this was the Friday, yeah. I can't remember what the bias was on Friday, but I think I was favoring bullish as well. Let me just check my Telegram group quickly, because that's where I showed my bias, I think. Friday. What day was this? The 16th. Yeah, May 16th. DXY. Oh yeah, I remember. My bias for DXY was this. As you see, we closed, I think, no, it couldn't be that. 6 hour maybe, because I remember I had 6 hour euro. Oh yeah, cause I think this was a failure swing. Like, if I check euro, yeah, this was my bias for euro. Yep, exactly. Yeah, so it was this high for DXY as this the next daily high, which I expected to be taken before we continue any lower, if anything. So literally what you could have done this day, if you see the 245 just closing like this, you just know the next one's a failure swing. It doesn't get more simple than this. Especially look at this. You've got this 1 hour range. You've got this 3 hour range created here as well. I would probably be targeting, well, I did exit once this range was completed, but that was a clean trade. It's all on my Twitter as well, so don't just think this is all cherry picked. But 245, where can you enter? Okay, some people ask me about this, so this should simplify it. Okay, if you're targeting this, I wouldn't recommend targeting this. This is literally 9 pips. So at least I would target this. Look for 2R. Clean. But let's say if you're going for a quick target this. But if you're targeting the full range and you're confident, you can go for 3R. I would say 3R is very clean to go for here. But if you just want to have an extra safe stop loss, 2R is fine as well. Like, it all pays at the end of the day, and you can literally just switch up positions. Let's say one thing I sometimes do, and let's say I'm targeting the full 3R here. What I like to do is switch up half and half my position. So let's say I'm risking 1.25. Well, let's say 1.2. I'll switch up 0.6 and 0.6. But if I'm entering one position, I just go straight in 1%. But if I switch up positions, then 0.6 and 0.6 makes sense, you know? So literally all you do, enter here, you target here on one position, a 2R, and then your second position you just let run. After this gets taken, break even this one. After this one gets taken, break even this one. You know what I mean? Like, you just have to get it over time. Like, just every failure swing, you can just like bang, click, 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 and you're in, you know? I know sometimes it's hard if you have work or something to see in real time, or sometimes you might miss it because you're gone for like 10 minutes. But even if, let's say, you miss this one, like, look how many entries you still have. You literally have still an hour and a half to enter. Like, even if you don't get the best entry, it's fine. You can wait for your confirmation. But another thing I like to see sometimes, let's say we have a failure swing here. Let's say here, and it gets disrespected, but it's against your direction. You just entered because it's a pattern, so that's why it gets disrespected. Especially with once it gets disrespected, it basically, the market's showing you that that's the way we're going. So something like this could happen. So let's say, let me do it more recent. Yeah. Let's say here it gets disrespected. We have a failure swing here. You think, oh yeah, we're going lower. What could happen? Goes lower and stops you out, because that is the real target, and you didn't see. You just looked for patterns. But most of the time, like literally every time, if you're on side with the bias, it will work. That's why I can't stress it enough with the bias. You have to know the bias every time. Especially one thing I forgot to say with the bias, if literally what I like doing sometimes, let's say, let's go back actually. Okay, if you see this candle, what would you expect? We've closed below, so the next candle we can expect the low to be taken. It wasn't taken, we went higher. What can we expect? The high to be taken. This was just a failure swing. Then we closed inside. The low was the next target. Then this, we closed outside. The low is the next target. Where's the next target? The low. Where's the next target? The low. We had an inside candle. We wait for either side to be taken out. Then the low is the target. You see what I mean? You can do this on any time frame as well. I forgot to mention this in a bias video, but that is a simple one. Last 15 minutes of that. Have to read again. I'm just looking at my notes quickly to see if I missed anything that I wanted to say. Yeah, but the most important failure swings are the 4 hour and 1 hour. But I think that's pretty much it. If you have any questions about failure swings, just let me know. But tomorrow I'll be dropping the entries video. So I hope you have a good night. And for tomorrow, I will say what my bias is, which is still the 2 week. Someone mentioned 4 days, but I believe this was just a failure swing now. The only failure swing that I still sometimes struggle to identify is your daily and weekly failure swings. Like, let's say this was a failure swing here. Sometimes I struggle to identify it, as it's more difficult, as your higher time frame failure swings can just come like literally. You see, this happened at the end of the candle. So this is just a failure swing with the new opening. You see what I mean? Like, you see the exact same thing you see on the low time frame, but just on the higher time frame. So this is something, if you see in the last, what was it? I had a bit in my notes. One sec. Yeah, if you see in the last 8 hours of the daily candle you make a failure swing, the last 4 hour candles, then the next day is a failure swing. This is something to note down. No one has taught you this before, but I will talk about the weekly one as well. Once we have a weekly one, it's easier to explain than just me telling you, but that is it for today's video. I hope you learned more about failure swings and I hope you utilize them. But remember, do not get too greedy, but it's literally a superpower of them. You literally know the high, the low of each session pretty much once it happens. So I hope you enjoyed and I'll see you tomorrow. Good night.